Lux, Anguis here, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this new episode of Lux Anguis and some very deep gnosis or perspectives that I have found very important to share with you, which is about the necessity of polarization and, ultimately speaking, its equilibrium, where, if you are familiar with the Kabbalistic tree of life, there are two pillars: the pillars of mercy and the pillars of severity. The severity is on the left side and mercy on the right side, right? The left one symbolizes the feminine and the right one symbolizes the masculine, and both, we could say, symbolizes and represents the energies of the negative polarity and the energies of the positive polarity, and through the forces of equilibrium, or the pillar of equilibrium, both forces can create a evolutionary dynamic for you to evolve. So, if you observe this depiction of this tree of life, you also see like pathways in between, and you kind of realize that everything with each other is interconnected to create a wholesome picture or a dynamic of energies which works in your own benefit. And we can expand this also on a bigger picture and bigger scale of things. So what I've came to the conclusion, of course, if this doesn't feel authentic to you, then you don't need to follow my advice. If it does, reconsider it. I have been primarily focused upon more so with darker magic or dark occultism in the left-hand path, and henceforth also with its associated darker beings and deities and spirits and so forth. And at some point when I have observed myself, it was getting too much. It was too much chaotic, too much embodying the pillar of severity, the pillar of the divine feminine. It was going into imbalances. I'm not saying that this is a bad thing either, because sometimes people and souls and spirits need to get into extremes to sometimes break their own boundaries and get beyond their own comfort zone, and thus can also reap deeper fruits of their own spiritual labors if you are pushing yourself beyond your limits. I can say that, and I can attest to this fact. But there is a healthy limit to that as well, which I think sooner or later you will and you must explore on your path by sometimes going into extremes, and there's nothing bad about it, unless you're getting stuck there and out of your own ignorance stay stuck there. I know that's a bad thing. But I came to realize, opening up myself, my world view, my energies to more lighter forms of spiritual practices, such as, for example, angel magic or other deities who are more predominantly associated with the light side, quote unquote, so to say, or more the masculine aspect of creation. I found it very beneficial. I found it very beneficial for me to kind of bring in these dark feminine energies with the masculine lighter energies in equilibrium with each other, and I found this dynamic to be very helpful for my own creations, manifestations, inner integration and workings. You don't necessarily need to work with angels in this case. I'm just very deeply and heavily into Kabbalah and all of its associated beings, entities, and to that are the Goetia and the Shem HaMeforash, So I was like, okay, I'm gonna adopt this current more deeper into my practice. So yeah, like sometimes I feel like even people on a left-hand path are sometimes too dogmatic, being dark and being this and that for their own good. If this feels authentic, being predominantly too dark, which I still am, even though I'm walking with angels or for certain periods of time with lighter forms and light forms of spirituality, that doesn't mean I necessarily permanently change my direction of my own polarity. I still see myself and I still feel authentically the darker side is where I am most home with. It's just how I see it, a necessary practice of balancing your own self, balancing your own nature, you know. And I feel many people would benefit by opening themselves up for potentially lighter forms of spirituality or lighter entities, energies of spirituality. You will see when you're doing this. It doesn't make sense, if you have a lamp, a flashlight, and you put in some batteries on it is a plus and a minus pole, and both together create dynamical energies, functional energies that you use for projecting your light, right? Excuse me. So yeah, think about it, sometimes it's healthy to embrace more the lighter side of spirituality, find your niche, find where you feel drawn to naturally the most, where you feel in this case, in this practice also at home the most. If you have found so, please continue practice it on and off, or whenever you feel naturally and authentically called to do this. You don't need to force yourself to do this either. You will know, if you are in alignment with your own intuition and self-knowledge, you will for sure know when it's the right time to go more to the quote-unquote lighter side and its associated practices. So yeah, my beloved ladies and gentlemen, just think about that. Consider this offer of instructions and gnosis and insight as applicable or not. Who knows? Whatever you want to do, whatever feels authentic to you. Other than that, NAGA bless, and we surely see and hear us again.